The walking simulator has been a divisive genre of video games for many years now. For quite a long time, it was used as an insult to describe boring or limited gameplay. In more recent years, I think people have been enjoying them more and more, either due to their creativity, or maybe even because of the overabundance of vapid and tedious games that rely on somewhat predatory business practices to make a profit. Regardless of the reason for this increased acceptance, people are still debating online about the value of walking simulators and if they even count as video games. There are those that see them as a blight on the industry, others who would defend them to their dying breath, and probably many more who are just indifferent. What I find interesting is that this division isn't really reflected in the reviews for these games. On Steam, titles like Firewatch and The Invincible have very positive reviews, and even looking at other examples, they all stand at least mostly positive. For a genre whose value is still being argued about, walking simulators are doing pretty well for themselves. But the question is, why? I think there are several reasons why these games are so well reviewed, but it really boils down to three elements: atmosphere, narrative, and art style. These are what really make walking simulators great games, and sometimes even masterpieces. Before I delve deeper into this, I think it's important to understand what walking simulators even are. They are games that have quite limited interactivity and that focus quite a lot on atmosphere and storytelling, exploring themes of life, death, religion, morality, etc. The main difference between walking simulators and most other games is the interactive element, and this is the part that comes up in arguments about the validity of these kinds of games quite a bit. But with all of that out of the way, I want to start by discussing one of my favorite games, Gone Home. This game is a perfect example of how atmosphere can be used in walking simulators to create tension in really unique ways. Here, you play as Katie, who is returning to her family home after a trip to Europe. As you get to the front door, you find this ominous letter written by your sister, with her apologizing and asking you not to look for her. Entering the house, it's seemingly empty, and you have to piece together where your family is, as well as what exactly has happened to your sister by looking through notes, newspaper clippings, clues, and by listening to the journal entries your sister has left for you. This absolutely plays like a horror game. You're alone in a huge, empty house. There's a storm raging outside, there are static TVs, lights that barely illuminate the specks of dust in front of them, and secret passageways that are so dark it feels like something is lingering inside, blocking light from coming in. Everything in this house points towards something terrible having happened, which makes looking for clues really tense because you want to know what's happened, but at the same time you kind of don't. You also walk quite slowly, which only adds to this already palpable tension as it naturally ramps up the anticipation as you turn each corner, especially into a newly unlocked room full of secrets. The reason why this is so unique, the reason why this works so well, is because Gone Home isn't a horror game. It only feels like it because the fear of the unknown, the tension felt in each room and passageway, mirrors your sister's story. It's one of self-discovery, dealing with new emotions and feelings, fearing rejection, disappointment, and judgment. There aren't just secret cubbyholes for the sake of it, they're there because Sam and Lonnie have to somewhat hide their relationship, so they have to express their love for one another in smaller, more intimate ways. Like a Ouija board trying to talk to creepy Oscar, or a poster for a concert that they went to together. Like in a lot of horror fiction, the house represents its owner as a means of instilling fear and unease, except here this intention slowly evolves to instead represent a love story that is secretive and intimate. This kind of premise is perfect for a walking simulator as, when a game is so well made like this, you don't need all of the extra interactivity found in other games, because all of the answers are laid out in front of you. You just have to go and uncover the mystery yourself. Dear Esther takes the walking speed and unraveling mystery of Gone Home and takes it to an open island to create a truly unique narrative. You're a man that has crashed onto an island somewhere in the UK, and you're narrating letters to someone called Esther. This game's narrative design is incredible. You get hints of what's happened via the narrator's messages, and although some of them make sense, there are others that could be interpreted as dreams or even just random thoughts. You're piecing together disparate elements of a narrative from sometimes coherent yet otherwise confusing messages from the narrator who you assume to be you. What doesn't help are the pseudo-religious messages on the walls of these caves and passageways that make you wonder who wrote them and why. They often connect to what the narrator is saying, so did you write them as the main character? But then if you already wrote them, why are you starting your journey by the crashed boat, implying that you just got here? At first, I thought these messages weren't actually there at all, and were part of a dreamlike hallucination until I remembered the empty paint cans scattered everywhere. This obscurity extends to the island itself, giving it this kind of mystical, supernatural feel, not too dissimilar to the island in the show Lost. There are also lit candles stationed around every corner for some reason. And why are all of these houses abandoned? There's a mention of someone called Jakobsen, but other than that... Oh, you thought Gone Home was scary? There are actual ghosts in this one. Unlike Gone Home though, this game's narrative isn't clear-cut. De Esta relies on you paying attention to small details scattered around each level, because if you're not careful, you might miss a key plot element that'll help you understand exactly what's going on. For example, in the shipyard area, if you don't take this left and go down this passage, you may not have seen the massive writing on the other side of the boat. Or here, if I hadn't gone back to see what was up here, I wouldn't have found this tiny cave with items inside. All of these elements combine to form this narrative, but the game doesn't hand you everything on a silver platter like the journal entries in Gone Home. Here you have to put in the work. Also, this isn't even connected to what I'm saying, but the cave section in this game is mesmerizing. I mean, look at this. But this is the most literal definition of a walking simulator, as you can't interact with anything in the game. Yet by having to uncover the narrative through vague clues and putting the work in myself, I was completely engrossed in the experience from start to finish. If you take the atmosphere of Gone Home and the narrative design of Dear Esther, you get Firewatch. It tells the story of Henry, a middle-aged man looking to run away from the pains and stresses of his marriage by working as a fire lookout in the summer of 1989. Off the bat, it takes the opposite approach to Gone Home in terms of its atmosphere. Instead of a tension-filled entrance, there's this coziness that really immerses you in the time period. It just feels like a warm hug, with lush forests, huge lakes, and beautiful vistas, which is why the mystery is so disruptive. A man and his son went missing and have never been found. Delilah is having secret conversations about you with someone else, and there's also someone recording the conversations that you've been having with Delilah. And what's with this massive fence? The tension created by these mysteries is even made manifest by the fire that starts to grow in the park. Much like the house in Gone Home, the fire represents something other than itself. But it's the opening hours of this game where the art style really gets to shine, with Henry spending countless hours talking to Delilah about life and wandering around this beautiful park. The cartoon-esque visuals make this feel almost dreamlike, as if it's a faraway memory that you're revisiting. Strangely enough, I think that's what makes it feel realistic in a way. That's how certain memories are. If you think back to your fondest childhood memories, do they look or feel as realistic as the room you're sat in right now? Probably not. They're transformed bit by bit over time until they vaguely resemble the actual event, and that's kind of what the visuals of Firewatch reminded me of. A real event made somewhat artsy and cartoonish by the march of time, but a comfortable memory nonetheless. The setting is transformed quite quickly from a quaint summer getaway to an unsettling thriller, but it combines this with a level of exploration that expands upon that which is found in Dear Esther. You have a much bigger space to explore, and your map gets updated with each cache that you find, so you're constantly on the lookout for new caches to unveil new parts of the map. In both Dear Esther and Firewatch, the main reward for exploration is knowledge, and because the narrative and world are so well designed, the knowledge gained is incredibly satisfying. In Firewatch, you have your map that gets updated, but in your tower you can also find a makeshift map that someone else created, possibly even Brian Goodwin, who plays an important part in the plot that I won't spoil here, and you spot landmarks in parts of the map that you haven't explored yet. I like how your map doesn't get updated here. You have to either remember or note stuff down for later. If you're not looking around the tower, you could miss this entirely, and it doesn't mean that you wouldn't find these landmarks anyway, but it's a cool bit of optional environmental storytelling that encourages exploration. Much like in Dear Esther, if you're not paying attention, you will miss important things. Altogether, it makes for an incredible experience. The coziness of the park can quickly turn into an eerie, almost inescapable place, like those found in folktales or even true crime stories of the period. You uncover what's really going on through objectives, but also by going off the beaten path and really paying attention to small moments of environmental storytelling. It's this perfect amalgamation of atmosphere, brilliantly executed storytelling, and a phenomenal use of a truly unique art style. 10 out of 10, would Firewatch again. There's a through line here, a connective tissue linking these three games together. They are mysteries with intriguing characters and incredibly well-designed worlds. That's certainly true. But there's something more profound here too, something more valuable. I don't know if there's only one word or phrase that can encompass it, but I'll try my best to describe it. It's like this methodical slowness, a patience and a willingness to be observant. It's immersion in its purest form. These places, these people, they want you to pay attention. Not just to look around every corner, under every rock, but also to the sky, to the trees, to photos and to memories. They want you to take your time, to uncover their secrets, but also to just live in their worlds, to appreciate the atmosphere, the art style, the story being told. This isn't set dressing for you to speed past on the way to your next objective or to gain XP for your next upgrade. This is the world, this is the game, and it wants you to appreciate it. It speaks to our natural curiosity, to our willingness to slow down and take everything in. And in a world, our real world, that feels like it's going a mile a minute, changing every second, I think it's a really important reminder. That's what makes these games unique. That's what makes them valuable. And that's why people love these games so much. No matter how many debates and arguments take place, that will never change. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.